G'day everyone, it's Jimmy here from My Online Guy with another episode of the Frothy Friday Small Business Podcast. And for those who don't know who I am, I'm Jimmy. I run a seven-figure digital marketing agency with a whole bunch of expenses and a whole bunch of staff, just like yourself. And I have one purpose, and that's to help people make more money from marketing with less. And let's just get straight into it today. I've got a lot of questions to answer from the audience. Now, if you have a burning question, put it in the comments below, and I'll endeavor to answer them in the next episode. But in this segment, I take your burning small business questions and do my best to answer them. So, like I said, if you have a question that you would like to ask after listening to these, you want me to follow up, anything like that, just whack them in the comments below and I'll answer them, like I said, in the next episode. So we're just going to get straight into it. Got some good questions here that need some answering. And so we got Rick from Gosford here. And he's asked, I have a small mechanical workshop and I keep getting harassed by people wanting to sell me SEO. I still really don't understand what SEO is and why do I need it. So are you able to explain it to me in layman's terms? Great question. We all get harassed by marketing agencies overseas. I do as well. I probably get 10 to 12 calls a week with people trying to sell me search engine optimization and various other marketing services. And it's just the part for the course. We've all been harassed by this. But Rick, great question, and I'm happy to answer it. So SEO basically stands for search engine optimization. And what that is at its core is ranking organically in search for search results. So you mentioned you got a mechanical workshop. So let's say Mechanics Gosford. For you to rank number one for that, you actually have to do a series of steps and a series of things to basically show Google that you're the right, you provide the best experience out of everyone in that search result. So what this essentially is Google gives us, so search engine optimization, like I said, Cliff Notes is different to Google Ads where you pay to be in top positions. So search engine optimization, you pay someone to help you get into top positions organically. That's the difference between those two. But essentially, what search engine optimization is taking what Google has told us is what it looks for when it puts someone in the top result, and then sending Google signals to so that it can identify those things. So Google makes this really easy. One of the biggest myths about search engine optimization is that you have to be secret squirrel, it's black magic done in guilds and things like that. No, no, no. I've been doing search engine optimization myself for about 10 years, and everything I know about search engine optimization comes from two sources. That's YouTube and Google's rater guidelines. And we are very, very fortunate that Google accidentally released what it gives to people like inside of Google to determine what makes a website rank number one. Now, the big thing about this book is that it has like 200 ranking factors. And what search engine optimizers generally do is they put different weightings to this kind of stuff and they have different ways of achieving it. So basically at its core, you got to think about Google like this, right? Google has one job with search, right? It's to answer questions and to fulfill a need for a user. Now, Google is not a charity. It's not doing this because it wants to help people as much as it does a good job of that. It is designed to generate revenue because it knows that if you get a good search result and you get the results you need, there's more chance in the future that you're going to click an ad and then Google will get paid. And for those people who think this is just a small thing, Google makes $70 billion a year net profit from Google Ads. So it has a very, very highly vested interest in making sure that the best results get served at the top of a search result. So when someone's searching mechanics Gosford, it wants to make sure that the top result that's showing up in the search is meets the core need of the user. Now, that's what search engine optimization should be, is trying to identify what meets the core need of the user from your website and your presence, and then really, really reinforcing that in Google's eyes so that Google goes, oh, wow, these guys, are the best fit for the search result. Now, generally why search engine optimization is expensive and B takes a long time is twofold. Firstly, it's expensive because if it's done right, it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. Anyone that says that they can rank you first page of XYZ, so like this is generalized comments, obviously, but anyone that says they can rank a website in 2 weeks on the first page is either lying or not doing it properly. That's the first thing. Got to remember, like Google has a vested interest in making sure the best result gets served up first in a search result. So why would it let someone that's just shown 3 weeks of signals and 3 weeks of things that say does a good result, why would it put that in the first result and give it all the clicks? The biggest thing Google has to delineate a bad business from a good business in search is time. A lot of the time, if you've been trading for 30 years and you've been online for 10 of them, and you've got good reviews and good feedback and people generally find what they need on your site, then Google has no incentive to swap that out because it's meeting the need of the user. And this is why there's so many websites on the internet that rank first for different things that have had no optimization. They just inherently meet the core need of the user that's searching that. So search engine optimization, to answer your questions in layman's terms, is effectively a person meeting the needs, looking for what the needs are of the user for those search terms that we're trying to rank for, and then building the website, sending signals to Google to say, hey, wait, out of all these businesses that are trying to rank for this, we meet the needs of the user best. That's essentially what we're doing now. Like I said, there's different flavors of this. People try different things. People try different tactics to do this, but most SEOs are trying to do that. Now, to answer your question about whether you need it or not, it's a difficult question to answer without knowing your specific circumstance, but I would say most businesses in the lifetime of their business will need to do some form of organic search optimization, so some form of search engine optimization, SEO. Whether that's right now or in 2 years or 5 years or 6 months from now really determines on what you've done before this and what you're going to do after. It's really part of a bigger holistic strategy to just generate inquiries. So, but there's also a lot of things as a business owner you can do yourself to get you like 70% of the way there. Where the value of a search engine optimizer is, like someone like myself is like getting a business from like 6th position to 1st. So one of the biggest myths is like people really sell the fact that ranking on the first page of Google is an achievement. It's actually really quite easy to do. You can rank on the first page of Google by just implementing best practices straight off YouTube. You could, as a business owner, spend an hour looking on things on your website that need to be right for Google to rank you, and you'll basically end up on the first page. Going from like 10th to 2nd page is pretty much inevitable. If you have a business that's legitimate, you will do that. 2nd to 1st page, good practices will get you there. For like 10th position to 7th position, you can generally get there if you've got pretty good content and a bit of feedback and you've got a social media presence, things like that. 7th to 1st is generally a lot harder. It's exponentially harder to rank from 7th to 5th and 5th to 3rd, 3rd to 1st than it is to rank from 100th to 7th. And the reason for that is they know that first page of results, people are actually going to click on it and people are going to expect tangible outcomes from those clicks. So they don't necessarily move those results around as much as they do everything else because they want to make sure that they balance putting the person that's the best result in there with someone that's already getting results for someone or getting an outcome for someone. So the way this works, right, is let's say you're on the first page and you're wondering why you're not moving. What Google's actually doing several times a day, 10, 12 times a day, is moving you in and out of results. So you might go from like 9th to 7th, 7th to 10th, 10th to 4th. It will just try you during the day, all day, in different results to see how people react when you're in that result and the competitor is in the result under you, to see if you're giving a good user experience. It's doing this all the time. You can't track this because it depends on where people are searching from, what they're searching, things like that. But basically what we need to do is make sure that everything is lined up so that when it is testing you in these different results, it leaves you in there. It basically goes, I'm going to run a split test. I'm going to put Rick from Gosford with his mechanic shop above John from Gosford with his mechanic shop. And I want to see how the market, this is Google, I want to see how the market reacts to this. And then it will basically put you back down and put them up and see, and it's basically just doing calculations to see, okay, well, when we put Rick from Gosford from this, did people get a better experience and get and meet the core need of the user better than when he was over here? And if he does, they'll most likely leave you in that spot. And then same rinse and repeat. The Google, that's why SEO takes so long to do, because this constant experimenting happens you start to stabilize when you're in the top three results. So, the top three of a search, that's when you start to stabilize because Google's generally found the right position, people to be in those positions. But up until then, what we're doing as search engine optimizations is constantly reinforcing the signals that Google's looking at to determine if you're meeting the need of a user. So with a mechanic shop, right? Someone's giving you their car, and someone probably doesn't know you. So when they're finding a mechanic in a search result, they're going, okay, well, I don't know this company. What are the things I'm looking for to determine whether I'm going to inquire or not? Are you trustworthy? Do you work on my kind of car? Do you do the specific service I'm looking for? Are you trustworthy? Do you have reviews? What are people saying about us? They're all the things that as a consumer, and as you probably are, when you're looking in search, you're asking those questions. So you basically, as a search engine optimization, we're thinking of the things that Google is wanting to, and every search is different, which makes it a lot harder. But when I do search, I'm thinking about what questions are people going to need to know before they inquire, and does our website answer those questions? And then that's the first step. So that will get you a long way. And then what we're doing is like the big thing is you can say whatever you want on your website, right? You can straight up lie and say you do all this kind of stuff. So Google then starts to look for external stuff that basically says, Jimmy's from My Line Guy is saying this on his website. And then but actually there's this source that I trust that's saying the same thing or is saying contextually similar things. So that's what you probably heard the term backlink. That's what backlinks are for, is to build external trust to what we do. So we can say we do stuff. So you can say that you're the best mechanic in the world. Now, if there's a blog, or if there's another place that's a mechanic, or another place that's an auto parts store that's also saying you're the best mechanic in the world, Google will give that statement way more weight and go, well, if I put him in a higher spot and he says this, and there's other people that are saying this as well, then there's probably a good chance that it's actually true. And then the third thing Google looks for is like expertise. So it's trying to determine, well, there's plenty of mechanics out there, but why should we put you first when there's plenty of others? So we have to show our expertise and show that we are legitimate. We've been doing it. We're qualified to do it. There's external sources saying we're qualified to do it, and that's the expertise part. If you tick those boxes, you'll rank number one inevitably. And all we do as SEO is just trying to decrease the amount of time it takes. Because if you did all that on your website, and said that, you ticked all the boxes from an expertise standpoint. You've been doing it a long time. You got your accreditations on the website. You got your motor vehicle license on there. You answer the questions that someone would have if they were searching for a mechanic. What type of cars you work on, the types of servicing you do, your pickup and drop off practices, things like that. The questions that someone would ask if they were like looking for a mechanic, you answer those. Then you have like a local newspaper say that you're a good mechanic, or you have an article in a local newspaper. Give it like 3-4 years, you'll rank number one and naturally. That's how search is supposed to work. And then what SEOs come and do is they speed up that process so that what would take 3-4 years to do takes like a year, takes like 18 months, depending on the niche. So we just create those signals artificially to give to Google. Or when I say artificially, just not how you would normally get them. We create all these signals artificially. We implement the best practices. We answer all those questions. We build the expertise and the authority so that when Google's ready to move the ranks around, we're just the next natural choice to move up. So when it's going, there's actually 10 businesses in the second page of Google. This one's clearly better than the others. We're going to put that in the first page. When we're in 7th position and they're going and testing different positions, these guys have a lot of places that have said they're a good business. We're going to put them in a higher position. That's essentially what SEO is. That's why it's expensive, and that's why it takes a long time to do. So Rick, hopefully that answers your question. It's a hard topic to talk about because there's so many ways to do it, but that's how I always explained it to people, and it's basically how it works. So hopefully that answers your question. If you've got any follow-up questions, Rick, just ping them in the comments below and I'll endeavor to answer them. So let's move on to the next question here, which is from Mike from Townsville. So my mate and I both work together and are thinking about starting a business together. In your opinion, what are the pros and cons of starting a business with a partner? Good question. I don't know if I have the authority to answer this because I'm not in a partnership. I am with my wife, but that I feel like that's a different dynamic. You're talking about a mate, you and a mate do the same work, and you're like, let's start a business because we both know what we're doing. Let's say you're both plumbers working for a company and you want to split off and do your own thing. I don't have experience with this. I did do a video, an interview with an accounting firm that did exactly this. So two accounting firms that merged together, and they talk a lot about the reasons they did this. And I'm just going to repeat back some of the things that they mentioned. They were saying that it's actually incredibly difficult to be a partnership, but they said the best way to go about it, but they said it's super rewarding. So they said that they wouldn't be as big and as successful as they are if they weren't a partnership because they were able to pool resources and it's two qualified accountants managing a whole team of accountants, which makes it easier. But they also said that at the very, very start, there was things that made it work. And that is they both had similar sized businesses when they started. So they're both on the same footing, right? So there wasn't one that was like a super qualified accountant, and one was just a new accountant. They were both at sort of similar levels and similar trajectories. So I would say that at a start, like you've got to be honest and go, do you have a similar, are you at similar levels? The other thing that I noticed, they didn't say this, but I noticed, is they have completely different personalities. One is very, very details orientated, black and white, is very, very methodical. Aaron is a lot more optimistic and fly by wire, just going with the flow. And the two complement each other. But they have a mutual respect for each other and they respect each other's opinions on things. That's the other thing I noticed. The other thing I noticed is they said they were very, very abundantly clear at the start what the expectations were of each other. So they actually created a director's agreement from the very, very start, explaining what happens if they don't agree on things. I think that's the biggest mistake you can make when going into a partnership is not having that at the start. Not having a director's agreement in place that goes, okay, well, what do you do if you're on leave for a week and I'm here working? What happens? How do I get remunerated for that? How do we determine how it's made up? What happens what's the process if I feel like I'm working too much and you're not working enough? What happens if you're sick? And, if you are serious about this, you and your mate need to put all your biases and the rose-colored glasses aside about being excited about starting a business. You need to put all that aside and lay it all on the table and be honest and pragmatic about that. If you feel like you are better qualified and you're going to end up doing more work because you are better qualified, talk about it. Have that conversation. If you guys can't have that tough conversation at the start about whether you go, oh, look, Jimmy, let's be honest. I'm a senior welder. I've got like 15 years of experience. My concern is X, Y, Z. My concern is that I'm going to end up doing all the complex jobs and you're going to and I'm going to grow to resent that. How do we manage that? Have those conversations at the very start before you get a business name and everything. Go and sit at the pub, have a couple of beers and go, how do we manage this? How do we manage our expectations of each other? It really needs, it's cliched and it's mentioned a lot, but it really does need to be treated like a marriage. The thing is, I say I don't have much experience with this, but my wife and I have been working full time together now for almost 3 years. And we have learned a lot about each other and how to manage each other's expectations. And I think if we don't do that, if we were married before and used to having clear communication with each other, it wouldn't work. We wouldn't be able to run a business together like we do. We very rarely argue because we always talk about things. And we're always, as much hard conversations come up, we always have them. I feel like this is the same thing. So that would be my advice, is like one of the pros definitely is two heads are better than one. You gotta have someone that can you can gut check and fact check and do it. I think you also need to be honest about the reason you're doing it. Are you doing it because both of you are qualified to do it and it's like you can get more done doing it that way? What's the end goal? You want to talk to your partner and go, do you want an exit? Do you want to make this your lifestyle business? Have these conversations. Go and talk to a mediator that specifically helps create partnerships, legal partnerships. Go and talk to a lawyer that creates legal partnerships like this. they will tell you the questions you need to ask because they've had a lot of experience with this. So that's definitely one of the pros. You know, two heads are better than one. Sharing, pooling resources. You know, you've got two people to hold each other accountable, because that's one thing I say about running a business is that it's very why you need a coach is it's hard to be held accountable to things when you're only answering to the man upstairs. Cons is that they do fail a lot. Partnerships do fail a lot more than just traditional businesses. And generally, it's through not communicating properly. But they do have a tendency to fail because, you know, it all sounds good on paper. But until you're at the face of battle, at the coal face with the stresses of running a business, you don't know how you're all going to work together. That's the big X factor. And like I was saying with Pauline, my wife, kind of knew what we were getting into working together because, you know, we'd always been very close. So, and we respect each other. So we knew that if, you know, going into business together, we kind of knew what we were going to get into with the stresses and things like that. But, you know, if you're just really good mates, the relationship you have is going to be different when you're a partnership, because when you're mates, you only talk about the good things. You may talk about the bad things, but you don't have the stresses of money generally involved in that. When you got the stresses of money and revenue and profit and staff and customers complaining, creates a whole nother dynamic. So that's what I would say is the cons of that. Go and talk to a lawyer that is used to creating partnership agreements and ask them the questions. Go and pay the $200 or $500 they're going to charge you to come up with a set of questions that you guys can sit down over a beer and actually have genuine conversations about. It may get heated. You may get upset. But you'll know whether it's worth doing, because I just have heard that dissolving partnerships and partnerships disputes is like one of the most stressful things. It's almost like getting divorced when you're married. So that's what I would suggest, guys. Hopefully that helps you, Mike. And yeah, let us know how it goes. Before I go on to the next question, guys, that's the wrong one. Before I go into the next question, guys, if you have any questions that you want me to answer, whack them in the comments, whack them in the PM me, do whatever, and I'll answer them. I love answering questions like this because it makes me think about how I can run my business better. And I don't pretend to know everything. I just talk from my experiences or anecdotal things that I've heard. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know the answers. But sometimes having someone reflect back at you from a different angle is a really, really healthy thing when you're asking questions. All right, so we got a question from Claire from my haunt here in Mandurah. So I made a video of photos using Videoleap for our advertising campaign and thought it looked great, but we didn't get much business response from it. What are your thoughts on video advertising campaigns? Do you think it's best to stick with photos? And if so, is it best to have one for people to look at rather than lots? Good question. So I think let's unpack this a little bit, right? So the question is, Claire made a video. She didn't get the response to it that she thought she would. And then, so we'll unpack that firstly. The first thing I would say is that you should never really make a video for yourself. And that may not have been the case here, but having known the video you're talking about, Claire, here, I think you got to remember that a lot of the time in business, you're not the target demographic. So what you think looks good for you may actually not work for the demographic you're trying to target, right? So let's say, for instance, your demographic is elderly people that want their carpets cleaned, right? Let's say there are, between 40 and 60, and that's one of the target demographics we're going to create a specific campaign to target. Well, then creating a video that you like as a 20-year-old, you might create a TikTok, right? And you might love it because it's got music and you're dancing in it. But a 40-year-old might go, this completely detracts from my experience. So you need to think about what the purpose of the video is, firstly, who it's going to go to, and why you're making it before you even make it. So that's something I've learned by doing YouTube a lot, is like, it gets pretty disheartening, and I'm sure you're the same. I'm just going to take my jumper off here for a sec. It's starting to warm up. I've learned this making YouTube videos, is that what I think people like is generally not what people like. And, I might make a video I put my heart and soul into, which is pretty much every video I make, but it only gets like 10 views. So you can't be disappointed about that. You know, you're going to put your heart and soul into something. The thing a lot of time with video that like people get emotionally attached to what they make, going, this is actually just like using a new tool, you know, using a new carpet cleaning tool or using a new lawnmower. You know, if it doesn't work for you, you change it and you try something else, right? So I think the answer to that your first question there is that you probably didn't get much business responses because you probably made it for yourself and not thinking about the demographic you're trying to target, not thinking about the message that needs to be in there, and you're not thinking about what benefits this video actually offers to the consumer. So that could be a reason why it didn't work well. And what are your thoughts on video advertising campaigns? Super effective. One of the most single effective things you can do is create a good video for your business. And do you think it's best to stick with photos? It really, like, I have success with both videos and photos. It just depends on the context and what you're trying to achieve, right? So like not everything can be sorted by a video. Sometimes context is better done with a photo. You know, if you're trying to say that you live in a certain area, a photo of the location is going to work way better than a 30-second video because contextually, the answer that someone's getting from that or the response or the thing that someone, because you should be creating content and things that serve a purpose, right? So if you're creating, if you're creating a social media post that's providing value around like, you know, you work in certain locations and these are why you love Mandurah, then photos will do perfectly fine for that. But if you're creating a post, say on social media about like the ways to clean carpet, then maybe a video will work way better for that. It just depends contextually. So like they both work good. I would say that video works from an advertising perspective, works way better than it did 10 years ago because the internet is better. But also just videos tend to stop people in their tracks. And even in that, the type of videos we do is changing a lot because of TikTok and short form. People are jumping between videos topically a lot more. So we need to keep our videos shorter and more concise. That's just the way the demographics and the psychographics are moving. Then the question is, if so, is it best to have one for people to look at or rather than lots? It depends on how much gusto you want to put into videos. So you can see by these Frothy Fridays, I make a lot of video content. But that's because A, I enjoy it, and B, it works really well for us. Because what we do in marketing is a lot of explaining. So for you, you may just be fine. You know, you may just make one video for every service you offer. You may just make one video that covers all your services and just cut the sections out of it. I don't think you need to go overboard with videos, but it really depends on what your ultimate goal is. Are you trying to create a business that you're going to sell in the future, or are you trying to create a business that's a lifestyle that becomes a part of your brand and your personal branding? Different goals then. But I think in your case, just knowing your specific circumstances, I think getting one really good video made that targets your demographic will serve you better than trying to create 5 smaller videos, say for instance. Get one professionally made that talks, that is thought out to what needs to be in there to show the benefits of what you do and why you guys are unique. And then do it. Remove your biases, remove the dragon, remove your personal biases out of it, and go, what does our demographic need to hear for them to use us over someone else? Because that's ultimately what the video is intended to do. So yeah, hopefully that helps you, Claire. Guys, like I said, if you got any questions, let me know. I love answering them, and I can help you out. Hopefully just help Claire out then. So we're going to move into the drop zone now, which is this one here. So the drop zone is a segment I do where I take an abstract business idea and talk about how I would personally grow it. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about the ways to grow a cat enclosure business. Actually something that came up in conversation, and I thought it's a great topic because I actually think this is a fantastic idea if anyone wants to do it. So if you have an abstract business idea, leave it in the comments, give me feedback, send it to my email, and I'll cover it off in the next episode. So in this scenario, I am a qualified roofer and I'm building a few cat enclosures for my friends in my spare time. I really think I'm onto something, and I've started a business offering cat enclosure kits to the public. They don't require council approval and they're reasonably simple to install. I have a $10,000 budget for my marketing. Oh, I love this idea. If I had an infinite amount of time, I would do this because I think it has so much legs. So, if anyone's watched this before, there's a pretty clear formula to growing any business. And the first thing we want to establish is whether it's a product or whether it's a service. So in this case, it's market like what you're suggesting is a product, but I actually think it could be both. So we're talking about the product, which is our cat enclosure kits, selling direct to consumer. But I also think there's an element of service and installs that could be really big part of this, right? So the big thing is they don't require council approval and they're reasonably simpler to install. So let's talk about some of the strategies we can go to here. So the first thing I would be doing is sitting down on a piece of paper or like on a mind map and thinking of all the types of people that could use cats enclosures and where they are and what they do. So let's think about, I'm just going to pick one out on the top of my head. It might be someone that owns a rental property, or someone that lives in a suburb that has very strict cat ordinances around, like cats can't be out at night, things like that. They might be under the age of 20 to 30. They might be 20 to 40 because they don't know how to build this themselves, because there is instructions on how to do this stuff yourself. You can go to Bunnings and buy everything, right? But why would someone be buying a cat enclosure instead of doing that? Might be because they don't know how to do it, right? That is a very, very good reason. They know that they want their cat to be able to go outside, but they don't know how to, they haven't had the skills, they haven't had the time, they don't know how to do this, right? So that's like let's say that's who we're going to target. So from that, we're going to peel back the layers and we're going to go, what are some ways we can reach this market? And there's cost-effective ways and non-cost-effective ways, but I would start with the most cost-effective guerrilla marketing ways to validate the concept, and then you can use more traditional marketing to amplify that. So some of the things I would be doing, Facebook groups, is as as non-romantic as that sounds, I would be creating a really, really awesome copy, like writing for a Facebook post with good pictures, selling to that specific demographic. And then what I would be doing on Google is looking at suburbs that have a high proportion of people, or looking for suburbs that have this specific cat ordinance, right? So like, let's say the ordinance is the cats aren't allowed outside. Some suburbs have that. I'd be going through and finding those suburbs, joining those Facebook groups, and then posting my thing in there. You could generate a lot of business just by doing that. Now, I think I can almost guarantee you're going to get a portion of people that don't want to install these themselves. So they're going to look for handy. They're going to ask you questions like, "Oh, how easy is it to install?" And this is where I think it's a really good service business. Is like in those suburbs. Before I posted that, I'd be calling several handymen and going, "Look, I've got this awesome product. I'm about to go and do some posts in the suburb. If I send them in your direction, we can do it either one or two ways. I can either charge an hourly rate for you to install it and you can sub to me, or I give you a finder's fee for this work," because it's a perfect job for a handyman. You don't need to be skilled to put one of these up. You just need to follow instructions and be good with your hands. Great job for a handyman. So that's what I would be doing, is like calling them up before I went to market and trying to tee up a few people to have an answer for those people that go, "Are these easy to install?" or they don't want to do it. You could put them on the website, and then they can find a local installer in their area. It gives another channel to handyman and to get more work, and it gives you an ability to sell more. And the beauty is, as the handyman start to see how it works, they're going to recommend it themselves, and they're going to start buying it, or they're going to start telling people about it, because it's another channel for them to grow. So you have all these this referral network that slowly builds up. So that's like the guerrilla way of doing it. Going into marketplace, advertising in a marketplace, going into cat groups, things like that. Just soapbox, hitting the soapbox and ringing the bell. That's what a good place to start. Because the reason you would do that first is because you get to really work out who your demographic is before you start running paid ads for this. Because I think this is a thing that could work really well with paid advertising, like Facebook ads, TikTok, Google ads, things like that. But you really want to hone in your demographic before you go and spend a heap of money on Google ads. I also think a website is really important for this. The website doesn't necessarily need to be that complex, but it really needs to walk people through the benefits of this. So we know our demographic, right? Which is these people that can't do this stuff themselves, live in areas with. So we want to make sure the website talks to the specific pain points and then the benefits of these cat enclosures over the alternative, which is keeping your cat indoors, or an alternative of like keeping your cat on a leash. I don't know, but like that kind of thing, right? So that when someone is doing diligence on us, so you would have a link to the website where you're able to sell them. They're doing that. It doesn't take from what your copy is saying or the writing is saying in your Facebook groups. It goes direct to the website, which reinforces, agitates those pain points. It's called problem agitation solution. So we are creating we are amplifying a problem that people have through Facebook groups. We are agitating that problem through our website, and then we're offering a solution which fixes that problem, which is, cat's health. And this is what it needs to be. It's not the features of it. It's not the fact that it's, a certain polyester or it's got stainless steel bolts. No one cares about that stuff. What they care about is like, it's proven that cats need a certain amount of outdoor exercise. Improve your cat's health is a benefit. Not the stain that it's made from 318 stainless steel. It's improve your cat's health. Some of these people, their cat is going to be like a child to them. So the same way you would market to parents is probably the same way you should market this. So definitely would be doing that as well. I'd be looking for strategic partnerships as well. Once you validate the concept, I would be looking to find suppliers of this stuff from overseas, if you're not doing that already, suppliers of the bolts, and trying to lower your cost of goods to increase your profit margin. And then rinse and repeat. Once you've got a good marketing channel and everything set up, the final thing I would be doing from a marketing perspective is creating content that drives organic traffic. So the way we do this is not thinking about writing content about cat enclosures, but thinking about that, going back to that demographic, right? What are the problems that this demographic has? And it doesn't even have to be about cats, just this demographic, you might have a article about explaining this ordinances and what you can and can't do, because you think about it, right? As a flow, someone's been told they can't have their cat outdoors or they've been dobbed on. They're going on Google and looking up the ordinance to see if they can have any recourse. So you have an article that ranks number 1 for that in search about like the how ordinances explained. They go, oh, actually, this might be a solution to the pain that I'm feeling right now, which is I can't have my cat outdoors. Well, here's a solution I didn't know existed. Another thing you can do is like articles on like keeping your cats healthy, keeping indoor cats healthy. Nothing to do with our solution, but it's just the right demographic. They're people that have their cats indoors that want to keep them healthy, and you just offer us as a potential solution out of a series of solutions. You build that, and then you drive traffic from there, and then you use your ads to retarget those people with our solution. You do that, you could have a really, really good lifestyle business out of that. You could be making a couple of $100,000 a year, and all you have to do is supply the product. That's how granular you need to get. But if you peel back all the layers, the fundamentals that work for that are the same fundamentals you should be doing for a plumbing business or a electrician business or anything. Know your market and stop worrying about the features of your products and talk about the pain points that they experience, agitate those pain points and offer them a solution. It's simple as that. It's all we do with our marketing. It's all we do with our business. It's all you should be doing with your business. If you're a plumber, your feature is that your solution is fixing their tap, right? But what's the actual pain they're feeling? Okay, well, their tap's constantly leaking, the water bill's going up. They don't want to waste water. They care for the environment. Okay, so how do we agitate that and go, well, did you know that that a leaking tap can add $100 a year to your bill and it can be fixed in 20 minutes? So you're not offering the feature, which is fixing the tap solution. The solution is that tap not leaking anymore. The solution is saving money, which fixes that pain, not the tap getting fixed, if that makes sense. Guys, as you can tell, I love marketing. I love this kind of stuff. The reason I'm sort of running around a little bit is because I actually think that this idea has a huge amount of legs. And I think that if anyone wants to start this business, let me know in the chat. Come and have a chat to me. I would be happy to partner up with someone that's willing to do the legwork for this and get them the business. I can guarantee you that I can get the business for something like this. I just don't have the time to organize the kits, send them out, logistics and stuff like that. So if you're wanting to start a business, this could be a really, really good place to start. But guys, thanks so much for watching. I know these go on for a bit, but hopefully you learned something from this. Like I said, if you have any questions or you've got a scenario you want me to cover off in the drop zone, or if you have some kind of business idea you want to get off the ground, leave them in the comments. I will answer them in the next one. I love doing this, and the more questions and feedback I get, the better I get as a marketer. That's the reason I do this. And I can help people along the way. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week, and I'll catch you next Friday.